grifters, YouTube viewers? I'm having fun live watching this conversation. That's already on a pretty. The bar is in hell in terms of mainstream media panels. This conversation is already pretty stupid because I think, like, I don't think anybody on the panel understands what capitalism, socialism, or communism means or is. But, they're trying to show their bona fides, as in, I read the books, or I looked at Hammer Sickle Twitter once. Here, like, this lady's pulling out the term late stage capitalism, you know, even though she's a Republican operative. So, I don't know. I kind of want to rewind to show you because it's pretty funny. Let's just go start
brave
here.
and ready to do something else.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
People don't want socialism, is exactly what you're saying.
They do want
They want
socialism, but they just don't
capitalism,
know
but
it's
capitalism,
socialism.
we're living in late-stage capitalism, to use a
living
Karl Marx
predatory
term.
We're
We're living
living
in
in
late-stage
corporatism.
capitalism,
Predatory
Corporatism is where we are
people
now.
feel like they can't have ownership in their society. Americans want to feel like they can own a part of their society. And too many Americans under 40, when the average age of the first-time homebuyer is 40 years old, feel that they can't achieve
So let
ownership.
me just
And if
ask
they
you a
can't
question.
achieve ownership,
When
they'll
Mayor
be curious
Mamdani
about
says
socialism.
we're freezing the rents, and if the landlords can't carry the buildings because the rents are frozen, he said maybe we'll give the buildings to the tenants. You think that's the American way?
No, it's the
Should be. Why can't you buy an apartment in one of these buildings? You can do it in China. 90% of Chinese own their homes, As she said, that's what she, fucking up the joke, dude. Houses are for living in, not for speculation. That's what she said. Anyway. Yeah. And even Western AI is verifying it. Like, yeah, that's true. And, this is the philosophy. Anyway, she says. But in capitalist America, capitalist pig dog America, we all gotta be fucking renters, dude. Anyway.
he diagnoses the correct problem with the wrong solution.
What is the solution then? How about you suggest the solution?
Sounds
I mean, that's what he said. He said, he goes, we'll give the buildings to the tenants.
Oh my God. Wow, we're going to give the buildings to the people who live in the buildings? Damn. How terrible. Do you hear do these people hear themselves? Like, the only way you could think this is bad is if you're propagandized to the max and are like, well, actually, the poors have to be renters. Otherwise, that's not freedom. If you're not renting, you're not free.
Not that they've earned them, not that they deserve it.
I do think, though, you're making a policy dispute with Mamdani, which I think is totally fair. But when you look at the fact that all of that being said, and trust me, everything was thrown at him but the kitchen sink, he's still the most popular politician in New York right now.
Listen, he's still in his honeymoon period. It's been, and you're going to think I'm being facetious, but I'm not. The New York Knicks winning and this winning streak, and that he's a Knicks fan, has helped him tremendously. Here in New York, this is a national show, but in New York, he's been on the cover of every newspaper with the Knicks, and that has been wonderful for any mayor. Whether it was Giuliani with the Yankees or him with the Knicks, he's still in a honeymoon period. Let's see what happens.
What's helping him is that
I don't know what he's got
delivering
on
his promises.
He's coming in. He's saying
freeze the
he can do
rents.
this.
He delivered on his comments, and you know who gets hurt when he freezes?
My God. It's just, this guy is so funny. He's like having a public freak out. Like, maybe chillax, dude. Not like you're spitting hot fire out here, you know? You know, we could hear this from any fucking BlackRock stockbroker, I guess, you know?
Freeze the rents to some degree. The tenants. You know why? Because you think the landlord's going to put in a new counter. You think the landlord's going to put in a new refrigerator. You think
he's
the
arguing that they're not going to do
Excuse
that.
me?
He's arguing they're not doing that anyway.
But there's a percentage that is, and there's a percentage
No,
that's
he
not.
came in and he stopped slumlords from not doing things to buildings that they have avoided for years. He came in and he balanced the budget. He
Didn't balance the budget. Hold on, Kathy Hochul balanced the budget. He went to the governor.
He worked together with her and made. That's what politics is it not?
Eric Adams did that as did Bill de Blasio, as did Bloomberg, as did Giuliani.
So
he didn't
you
do
think
anything
it's not
unique except
worthwhile?
have to
Let me
borrow money
I
from
just
the
want to
state.
play one more thing. This is from Trump. Remember today he was speaking at this conservative Christian conference, and he frames this whole debate as not just a threat against capitalism, but a threat against Christianity. Listen.
Oh no. What will happen to my fucking fantasy beliefs? Oh no.
These ruthless communists will attack all religions, but in particular Christianity. They always do. They're after Christianity more than any other religion. They want to end religion. They have to end religion because their ideology doesn't work if you have strong religion. People like you that are
Wrong. Hold on. Let me show you something. Michael Parenti said it best.
Ladies and gentlemen, I say it without flinching. Communism in Eastern Europe, Russia, China, Mongolia, North Korea, and Cuba brought land reform and human services, a dramatic bettering of the living conditions of hundreds of millions of people on a scale never before or never since witnessed in human history. Communism transformed desperately poor countries into societies in which everyone had adequate food, shelter, medical care, and education. To say that socialism doesn't work is to overlook the fact that it did work, and it worked for hundreds of millions of people. But what about the democratic rights that they lost? We hear U.S. leaders talking about restoring democracy to the communist countries. But these countries, with the exception of Czechoslovakia, were not democracies before communism. Russia was a czarist autocracy. Poland was a right-wing fascist dictatorship under Pilsudski with concentration camps of its own. Albania was an Italian fascist protectorate as early as 1927. Cuba was a U.S.-sponsored dictatorship under that butcher Batista. Lithuania, Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria were outright fascist regimes, openly allied with Nazi Germany in World War II. So what democracy are we talking about restoring? The socialist country did not take away any rights that didn't exist there in the first place.
Banger. Anyway, get back to it.
so incredible and love our country so much and love God. They will close your churches in this country.
I guess it is a question also when the rhetoric.
Oh no, scam religion churches are gonna shut down. What will happen to my mega my mega church plays with zip lines and flying Jesus guys, and I don't know what the fuck happened. I know those plays go kind of crazy though, that they put on for like Easter and Christmas.
Gets so wound up. Do people just start to tune this out?
I don't think so. I think that President Trump is actually
Don't
touching on
smoke
something that is very real there. There's been a relationship between capitalism and American Christianity for the longest time, right? And honestly, you know, depending on how you're looking at it.
Well, yeah, maybe because Western society or Christian society was the proto, you know, capitalist societies, because that's where, you know, these globe spanning empires that brought about the Industrial Revolution and created a proletarianized, you know, their locals in the homeland. That's how this whole shebang with capitalism got its start, through colonization and imperialism. Or what we now know as modern capitalism, at least, or the global system. Anyway.
Both of those things have been decently dangerous to Black Americans. Black Americans were the capital that allowed capitalism to exist, right? And
Banger. Okay. Maybe this guy is reading Jay Sakai.
also suffered the forced adoption of Christianity as well. So those two things actually do have a through line. I think President Trump signals to he throws red meat to his base, who sees those two things together, right? Their versions of Christianity don't want to give money to the poor. Their versions of Christianity don't want to take health care away from people. And that is what capitalism has been doing in America for the longest time as well. So I think he's hitting on something real.
And the idea of a Jewish state, Israel is a Jewish state, that's in the charter. That's the way it is.
They just move on to... Is Zoran Mamdani anti-Semitic? Is this what they're going into? What a fucking pivot. Anyway.
Now, do you support that?
I've said time and again that I support the state of Israel as a state with equal rights. I believe that any state that preferences...
But as a Jewish state is the question.
No, I don't support a ethno-state. Sorry, buddy.
I think any state that privileges one religion over the other is one that I can't tell you I support, whether it be Israel or Saudi Arabia or anywhere else. And a lot of that comes back to a fundamental belief that we should all be considered equal no matter what our faith is.
So Mark was asking in the break, is it just the economics or is it also...
Dude, how many times are we going to have this fucking, is Zoran Mamdani anti-Semitic conversation? Like, we've been having this conversation for what? A year now. He won the primary over the mayoral primary over a year ago. And he's answered these kinds of questions, like, at least in his mainstream media interviews, dozens, if not hundreds of times. Like, okay. How about you go read about what's going on in Israel and decide for yourself if a Jewish ethno-state is the ideal solution to the conflict there, considering, you know, it was founded on ethnic cleansing through Plan Dalet, which triggered the Arab-Israeli War, as they like to call it, which is really just cover for the Nakba and clearing out more Palestinian villages. And, you know, that established that invented Israel. And, you know, they've continued that expansionist ethnic cleansing to this day. They're now even going into, well, I guess it's not new because they took the Golan Heights and Syria, but now they're going into Lebanon to ethnically cleanse southern Lebanon, as well as Gaza and the West Bank and more parts of southern Syria.
Stuff like that, Ashley. that has caused the rise of these Mamdani-esque candidates?
Well, I think putting it all under the banner of socialism actually is a misnomer. I think the socialism policies actually are the economic policies. I also think that there are people that have great issues with our alliance to Israel. Am I one of those people? I do think Israel is our ally. Do I like the current government of Israel? No. Do I like the current government of the United States? No. I'm still allowed to do that because we live in a democracy and we're able to have freedom of speech. Does that mean I should be persecuted for that?
You worked on the Biden-Harris campaign. You really do have to be a dummy to get onto these campaigns, don't you? Or at least pretend that you don't know what you're talking about, I guess. Like, I want to give her the benefit of the doubt, but like, come on. Like, she's not talking in a way where she seems to understand what socialism or communism is either. Like, all these fucking people.
No. Could I be persecuted for that? Potentially. And is that how some people are seeing what is happening to Palestinians? So I think Mandami's answer, in my opinion, is where I'm aligned. I think that people should be able to express their religion, express their sexuality, express their race, and express their ideologies free, whether it's a Muslim
do in Israel,
so
not other countries.
Not Palestinians.
Not Palestinians are Supreme Court judges in Israel. Palestinians have rights
not
to
at the
vote
West
in the
Bank.
election.
Not in the
West Bank
occupation.
doesn't want to be part.
This ghoul is back on CNN. Ugh. Why do all these morons get elevated to these fucking main... Whatever. Lock her up. She should go... This lady should face the Hague. Anyway.
Part of Israel. Neither does Gaza. So if they're part of Israel, then they can
not
have
Palestinians that live in Israel.
That's what I want to ask you, Charles. I mean, are Republicans making a mistake to assume that sentiment?
Oh, and if you don't know the blonde's background, she's just a Hosberist for hire, mercenary type chick. So yeah, basically the modern expression of Goebbels, little goons. Anyway.
That we just heard from Mamdani is something that is only reserved for far left liberals. Because when I look at the polling and I see young, conservatives, their views on Israel have shifted sharply negative over the last couple of years.
And I think I'm looking at the same polls that you're looking at, which is why I'm always confused when people pick out people on the left who are running for office and say that they have said something that was offensive, and they say that they, as you have said before, that that they are horrible people and you condemn them, right? So, but when Randy Fine in Florida was running for office, who Donald Trump actually endorsed, and he said that Palestinian is just another word for demon, which is still up on his Twitter page right now. I looked to see if either of you had ever condemned him for that, and I might have missed it. My fault. I will give you the opportunity right now to condemn that the same way that you are condemning the other people.
There you go. Condemned.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Who are we condemning again? Like, what? Oh, what is this fucking condemnation? This whole qualify your statements, please. How about you just try thinking for yourself about what they're saying before you demand a condemnation of some random figure. Ugh.
Could agree two things are wrong.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
I think it's the bare minimum to be like, hey, Palestinians are human too.
I appreciate that so much.
But I don't appreciate when my mayor is like, oh, I don't dislike Jews. I only dislike Zionists. Okay, well, what if I told you majority of Jews were Zionists?
That's not true. Bullshit. Or, well, maybe globally. This is another bullshit talking point where, because the majority of Jews misunderstand what Zionism is, and like me, were raised in a Zionist synagogue environment where, you're basically taught this civic nationalist religion where Israel is seen as, oh wow, it's our savior from the Holocaust, from Holocaust 2, as if that's a real threat in the modern age, you know? That's why most Jews identify as Zionists, because they just don't understand what Zionism is. And I think less and less Jews are in America are identifying as Zionists, at least. So that trend is not going in this lady's favor.
Like we were speaking during the break how you don't want to be subject to racism, and that's totally valid. And I don't think you'd like living under.
And for the record, Zionism is a settler colonial fascist ideology that revolves around, and it's fascist because it revolves around in-group, out-group dynamic and calls upon an imagined past. Israel was promised to us 3,000 years ago, and actually, it's a decolonization movement. I believe it or not, that's a fairly common talking point among the, ultra Zionist zealots, because their idea is somehow the Palestinians colonized Israel. When, I guess whatever Muslim empire was doing their conquering in the region back in like the Middle Ages. That's the ultra Zionist counter, I guess. But yeah.
Mayor, that's like, well, I don't dislike all black people. I only dislike some.
That's not the same thing. That is not the same thing. That is not the same thing.
I actually don't think that's what. I don't know if that's what. I don't want to.
Don't drag us into that, by the way.
I don't drag you into
what? Don't drag us into. Don't drag.
Oh my god, this lady. Oh, I need to rewatch that. That's crazy. Did I hear what I heard right?
Like living under a mayor, it's like, well, I don't dislike all black people. I only dislike some.
That's not.
I'm sure.
Oh my god. And you did that in front of 2 black people? That's crazy. The caucasity, dude. The caucasity. Anyway.
Not the same thing. That is not the same thing. That is not the same thing.
I actually don't think that's what. I don't know if that's what. I don't want to.
Don't drag us into that, by the way.
I don't drag you into what?
Don't drag us into. Don't drag us into your discussion about. That's the same thing.
Anyway.
It's black people. Don't drag us into that.
The last word here.
Don't drag us into that.
I think that people. I think what I hear when I actually hear Mandami speak is that he says that he does not like the ideology of having a religious state. Whether it is, he said, Saudi Arabia, which is a predominantly Muslim state, or Israel, which is a predominantly
No,
Jewish
I hear you,
state.
but he never talks about the other states, and I think we could.
He literally
outside of this interview
he never talks about the other states, even though he just mentioned that in the same answer. Why don't you ask him about the other states instead of just his opinion on Israel? Why is the only questions he's getting about his allegiance to whether he's allied with Israel or not? Huh? Why don't mainstream media reporters ask him, do you believe Saudi Arabia should be run by the king? And MBS, is that a good system? And then he'd probably be like, no, actually, I think it's very corrupt and built on a system of modern slavery. Forget the fucking word for it. But that's how a lot of these Gulf states operate. They get Southeast Asian immigrants to come work for, higher wages than they could get back home, and then hold on to their documents and stuff so that they can't really leave until they're allowed, or pretty bad.
Ever made it his point to constantly
I really want to just let Ashley finish this thought.
For South Asian
I think that's the
immigrants.
problem, right? Is that folks are so dug in on this. And I understand it as someone who is not a part of either one of those communities. Because I was sitting at a table on October 7th with a Palestinian and with somebody who has lived in Israel. And I saw the tension, and I thought it was not my place to get in. So I understand the personal pain that both of those folks are feeling. But I think words actually do matter. And what he said in that interview is what you're saying he didn't say.
Yeah, but his wife was liking videos of women getting raped on October 7th. I don't know if I care about Mamdani's words, to be honest.
Yeah, his wife is liking videos of women getting raped. One, where's the evidence? Is there the only evidence I know of is of rape, an instance of rape by Hamas's one hostage who was in captivity. And on the record, she said that the higher ups, I don't know. I forget the story, but the higher ups did something to punish the goon that did it to her. And that's basically the only actual evidence of Hamas committing rapes. It's out there. The rest of the stuff that's on October 7th has never actually been investigated. And the investigations that got published were, notably by the New York Times, did not meet their editorial standards as outlined in The Intercept, talking about the Screams Without Words New York Times article. And, it was all muddled with by this organization called Zaka, that seemingly, messed with the bodies to present a story that probably didn't occur. So,
Be honest with you.
Well, then can I say I don't know if I care about Donald Trump's words when he says
but
he's
follow
not...
his actions. Exactly. Don't listen to Trump's words. Don't follow his words, follow his actions.
He discriminated
I want Mamdani's actions to be as generous as his words.
Emily, I am actually following Trump's words and actions. He tweeted apes. He had somebody on his backyard that called the first black lady, black first lady, a man. He discriminated in the 70s against black people in housing. He actually called for the execution of the exonerated five.
I mean, it's just like, I don't mean that that's funny. I just mean so ridiculous that like these people are still trying to pretend like they're not racist. I guess the only reason that this doesn't really work is because mainstream media's bias is Islamophobic and anti-Arab. And this lady's primary target of racial animus is Arabs and Muslims, so he's not going to really get called out for that. But for defending Trump, he will. Anyway.
I am not only watching his words, I am watching the most powerful man's actions, and I'm also being told to ignore that.
All right, we're going to leave
Not
it there.
acceptable to me.
I feel like it's deja vu all over again. There was so much fear around that when I was elected, and none of it bore out to be true. Voters vote for what is happening in their community and what's on their ballot. And I think that any candidate of any party that's running their own race has the responsibility to run their race, say what they believe, and be as attuned to their community and their voters as possible. While there may be personalities, I think what they want to see is policy. Are we fighting to guarantee health care for every American? Are we trying to raise wages? Are we tackling on these huge corporations?
She would know. She unseated an incumbent, a longtime Democrat, and she ran as a Democratic socialist.
Oh God, is this stream even working? 1 kilobyte per 9 kilobytes per second. Is that good? Hell, anyway.
List as well. So she knows. And do you think that she's right that this is basically deja vu? It's her race, but times 3.
Well, it's not that she's right. She's right that this is similar to her race, but I can't remember her ever saying, horrible, disparaging things about the American flag, being part or founding an organization that wants to.
What a shame. I wish she had. That way, the left might actually throw her more bones, and she probably wouldn't be as scared to do anything or everything. Considering the spotlight is on her like 24/7. Because she's, being passed the torch, so to speak, by Bernie.
Undermine the republic. This is what some of the candidates that won recently are doing. So they are much more further towards the radical left than AOC ever was. So at some point, she's going to have to contend with what a lot of establishment Democrats have to come to face after 10, 20 years. They eventually become the establishment, and they get eaten by this new cadre. Look, what happened with the Democratic Party was this. For 10 years, for 8 years, whatever you want to say, the party had no message other than Orange Man bad. And Zohran Mamdani, his allies, his compatriots, they filled that void with a very cogent series of ideas. It's called socialism, right? And they filled that void, and this is the only alternative message to Trump, right, out there in the ether. And people did pick up what they're putting down. Mamdani's a vote getter, no question about that. But this is essentially good for Republican Party because you have a lot of Democrats, even Letitia James, the Attorney General here in New York, pushing back on the socialists. They're afraid of the socialists.
All right, well, let's see how that bears out when the general happens. It didn't seem to work out for the Republican Party in the New York general election. Maybe because everybody teamed up to, shut down Cuomo. But, AOC's held on to her seat safely. Ilhan Omar's been safe in her seat. Rashida Tlaib's been safe. The only, people who've actually been ousted from Congress for, maybe taking too progressive a stance was Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush. And that was in the aftermath of, October 7th. They came out against the genocide, and then AIPAC dumped millions into their race, and they didn't have a strong enough home game to defend their seats. And yeah, that's basically it. So cross your fingers, guys. Heard a general. Oh, Daria leads Claire Valdez, Brad Lander. Are shoe-ins for the general. Adam Homowy too, I'm pretty sure, and Maylot definitely. Who else? The hardest part for most of these candidates is getting out of the primary because you'll usually have a progressive spoiler like Mallory McMorrow, who's just like a stooge and fake as hell, come in to pretend like she cares. And, the other people will just, in name recognition, most of the voters in the primaries are also boomers or old as hell. So name recognition is the biggest issue there, too. And getting grassroots candidates that are socialist aligned, not going to get astroturfed that way. Not going to get on TV ads that way unless you can build some kind of grassroots fundraising initiatives. So that's the biggest issue for socialist candidates in the US, because they're actually grassroots. They're not bought. So almost next to it, up until now, it has been almost next to impossible for a socialist candidate to make it out of the Democratic primaries. which is why when AOC won her race, that was huge. And story of the month, right? I don't know. I was like 18 when that happened. I wasn't fucking paying attention. I was focused on having fun. Anyway.
Because they see the electoral possibility what the Republicans could do.
But isn't he right in the respect that Democrats have been coasting on Trump bad for years and years and years, and now there is an alternative message. They don't like it. Some of the establishment doesn't like it, but it is a real message.
I agree, full stop. Like, if the establishment Democratic Party wants to beat out the socialists or the far...
And the thing that definitely shows how pissed off, like, even the white boomers in the country are with the establishment Democrats, like, look no further than, like, polling comparisons between Graham Plattner up against Susan Collins and Janet Mills up against Susan Collins. Even post-rape allegations, Graham Plattner is still, you know, has a better chance against Susan Collins than Janet Mills. That's how hated the Democratic establishment is in the country. Even the white boot, like, and Maine is an old state with a lot of old people, and it's mostly 99% white. I lived up there. There's not a lot of, there's no density in terms of living. You know, community is very scattered outside of, like, let's go hiking, skiing, or fishing, right? You know, so, yeah. And if that's happening up in a rural state like Maine, mostly made up of white boomers, you know, just imagine how the rest of the country feels. Like, that's the Democratic establishment's target demographic, at least since Chuck Schumer took over. You know? Anyway.
Our left, like, put forward a message. Tell us what you want to do. Tell us how you're going to make housing cheaper, childcare more affordable, solve the affordability crisis. Like, where's the vision? If the establishment and the old guard wanted to win, they should have been organizing. They should have been communicating. They should have been doing stuff. I think, like, the frustration.
Run for something.
That voters have right.
I talked to a guy at Run for Something. I think he was kind of confused by my goals. I was like, well, I'd like to run as a communist on a Democratic ticket. And he was like, well, you know, have you thought about volunteering at the dog shelter? I'm like, bro, how about we organize a socialist political party instead, so that we can run vetted candidates that are part of the movement. You know? I don't know.
Right now that I think is so visceral and so deep is this sense that our leadership is not well suited for the moment. They have neither the stomach nor the skills to fight in the way that we need, and they have failed to deliver on the promise that, like, oh no, just elect us and we'll get it done, or no, we know who can win. They have lost all sense of credibility with the Democratic base. They no longer reflect the party as it stands with voters.
What I don't understand is why the Democrats are going down this socialism route, because that's not going to work in the rest of the country. It might work in New York City for a while.
It doesn't work in the rest of the country.
Well, if you want to win the presidency, I believe it's going to have to work. So progressivism, when I hear progressivism, I think something a lot different than when I hear socialism. So when I hear Democrats...
Okay, what do you think? Please explain.
And I'm a democratic socialist. I'm thinking, why are you saying that? The Republicans do a hell of a job of identifying, we're going to call them socialists. Socialists hate America.
Can I ask you something?
Please.
No disrespect. You don't have to.
Yeah, and it didn't work. Clearly, at least for these candidates, out of one as socialists or socialist endorsed.
This is the question, but how old are you?
I'll be 60 in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Look great.
All right. You look...
I grew up in the Red Scare, and I'm still drinking the Kool-Aid.
You look wonderful.
Thank you.
But I think the truth is that for
Megamind over
a lot
here.
of younger people,
I mean, this guy's Megamind.
They don't care about those labels. They don't know the difference. I mean, they know the difference, but it doesn't really matter to them as much. And part of the reason why, look at what's happening here in New York City. Just today, Zoran Mamdani just had a rent freeze that they
What is the difference that progressives don't understand? Value comes from labor. Like people who, like I identify, like it. These labels are so meaningless because socialism is progressive. You know, it's just people who are like, oh, I wouldn't identify myself as a socialist. You know, don't understand what socialism is for the most part. Or I mean, progressives who are. So that's the real difference. Anyway.
Rent control board established, which he promised he was going to deliver. He got universal child care through in the past 6 months he's been in office. He's got crime down.
And he still has progressive
Let me finish, Joseph. He's got crime down. He's got the Knicks winning historic champions, and he balanced the budget on top of that. If that's socialism, then sign me up, because those are things that people want. He's delivering results for the people of the city.
So,
oh God. This guy was, I guess he was only a White House aide. But whenever I see this Clinton White House aide, and now I'm just like, well, that's suspicious.
There's a protest by progressive Democrats against Mamdani's treatment of the NYPD.
Hold on,
So they're eating themselves.
but just.
Oh my God, our cops that get paid six-figure salaries to do nothing. Oh my God, what about them?
Just to be clear, I mean, what's fascinating is that look at this polling about, let's start with Mamdani. 48% of New Yorkers approve of him. Just 30% disapprove, 23% are unsure. So he...
Okay, so the plurality approves, despite all the negative and nasty press that comes out against him.
He has a net positive approval rating in this city right now. Look at the national picture. Bernie Sanders is the most popular newsmaker, plus 11% favorability, followed only by AOC, who has a -4 approval rating. And then all these other, look at Donald Trump. He's at literally the bottom. I don't know what Marco Rubio did to the public, but he is at the bottom of the list. But
Marco Rubio's a Trump goon, that's why. How is Pete Hegseth above? I guess Americans are really just like so dumb. Some Americans are so dumb, they just see some ooh-rah chud do the military stuff and they're like, I kind of like that, I guess. I don't know.
Look, my point is that I don't know about the labels. I think that maybe people are too obsessed with that idea because it seems like voters are not taking that seriously. They're also not taking the real controversies. Like, honestly, some of these candidates have said some things. They've deleted tweets. They've said some things that they don't even want to defend. But voters are just ignoring all of the...
Yeah, run me for president. I'll defend everything I post. I do not care. I know people won't like it. Some people won't, but you know. I guess that's probably what makes me unviable as a candidate. Regardless, you know?
Those things. And I feel like that is, if nothing else, that is actually a Donald Trump legacy. Yeah. That Donald Trump set the table for that kind of thing in our politics.
Well, I think Donald Trump inherited I always said Donald Trump's election, in a happy country does not elect Donald Trump. An angry country elects Donald Trump. And Aristotle said that you have to have a thriving middle class in a democracy because it moderates the politics. And when that middle class shrinks and when it disappears, you're going to get political extremes. And this country has produced Donald Trump to the presidency, and now it's produced Mamdani in New York City and AOC. We have a country.
Because clearly we should be taking advice from a guy who lived 2,000 years ago about how to do politics in the modern age of surplus and industry. Thank you. Yeah, I read Plato's Republic too, man, or whatever the fuck. You know, there are some good ideas in there. It's not the gospel, though.
Anyway. Where 1 in 3
gospel is not even the gospel, you know what I mean?
Americans under 35 live with their parents. The average age of the first-time homebuyer is 40 years old. The main middle-class pathway to upward mobility and a better life, college, has all but collapsed. Most people do not believe that going to college is the way to have a better life anymore. That has been our main...
Because it's true. I have friends with computer science degrees that are working at a donut shop or whatever, you know? That might be because I got them a little too political, public. I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but yeah, if you want to make money and have a middle class income, it's a lot easier to just get in on some kind of trade or business than it is to try to build a career and go to college and build a career, you know. That's just the reality in America right now.
Economic highway for decades. All of that has collapsed. A civilized global superpower would look at all of those statistics and treat it like the national emergency that it is. Because what's going to happen is the United States is going to get revolution one way or another. We don't want to see it go down the path that Russia, France, Iran went down, where
Oh no, the Tsarists. Oh no, what about the Tsarists in Russia? We don't want to see that kind of, you know, menacing, villainous elite class be overthrown. That would suck. Yeah. What you said Cuba too, right? Oh no, Batista, our US sponsored dictatorship that was running a slave island basically and run by literal mobs from the US that owned hotels and casinos and plantations down there, you know. Mob bosses. Oh no. What will we do if we don't want to see our mob bosses get overthrown like in Cuba?
the young disenfranchised just revolted. People want, you're not going to beat left-wing populism with anything other than right-wing populism. America already said that that's what they want. But the Trump administration...
You're not going to... Okay. You're not going to... What this lady means by right-wing populism is get more racist and anti-Semitic and hyper-nationalist or white nationalist more. So anyway,
has to double and triple down on its right-wing populist policies to blunt the riots. Otherwise, people are going to look for left-wing solutions.
What are these right-wing populist policies? Mass deportations, letting a secret police force run wild as they assassinate, you know, business owners that have been here for 35 years, as they assassinate VA nurses, as they assassinate mothers in their cars. Is that the right-wing populist policies? You know, I guess. Let's see if this one's
big wins for Democratic Socialists in New York City, backed by the popular Democratic Socialist mayor, Zoran Mamdani. Already, there are Republicans trying to tie the winners here to National Democrats, and already there are some National Democrats a little bit nervous about how their own party might be painted.
This guy is one of them.
With us now, CNN Chief Data Analyst Harry Etten. Sir, good to see you. So when we talk about Democratic Socialists, How were they perceived?
You know, I will tell you, there is a reason why Republicans...
This is old. Fuck me, dude. My videos suck. Anyway, that's 50 minutes of me, I don't know, making fun of CNN, sort of, giving extra clues to whoever's willing to sit through this boring slog. Anyway, if you like that bullshit, you should like and subscribe, because I don't plan on stopping uploading unless my job requires me to for some weird reason. Anyway, you know the deal. Long live Marxism, Leninism, Maoism. Like and subscribe. I don't know. Figure out a way to donate to me. I have a Grifty on, a Patreon, but if you're a fan, that would help. That would really keep me motivated if people wanted to actually pay to hear this bullshit from me instead of Mike from PA or Hassan. You know, you're getting the same, or any number of socialist content creators online that already have a working revenue structure, I guess. Anyway, YouTubers, like and subscribe. Bye.